Bitcoin making some moves. I'm excited to break down these charts. I want to talk about target to the upside. I want to talk about resistance and what a move back to the downside might look like, why we should all be careful as we track these crypto markets, as we look at Bitcoin making some moves. But I want to show you probably, I think, in my view, on the macro, on the zoomed out, the most compelling argument that we are extremely right on track and the bull market is truly just, I mean, we're getting to that point where we can say it's months away as the Bitcoin halving comes very quickly in spring of 2024. So hit the subscribe, hit the like. We're going to dive into this chart in a few minutes, but I do want to start zoomed out and I want to talk about the story that's happening right now, because if you're on the sidelines, if you're somebody that's been walking away from crypto lately, we see a lot of people just kind of giving up on crypto. Engagement on socials has been at like an all-time low. I'm hoping that people start paying attention to the data because it's been clear all year long. And I want to take a 30-second clip, and then we're going to really dig into the charts. But it's like a 30-second clip from a video I did in January. And I just want you to take note of how far we've come and how on pace and on track we are from what I said in January 2023. Check it out. Investors may be surprised to learn that in the last 69 years on average, stocks did worse in the year before a recession began than during the recession itself. So 2023 being the recession, you're going to start seeing all of these headlines. 2023, recession is here probably. And the year before, data suggests markets performed worse. That would mean, and I want to start here because it's important, the 2022 year that we just went through for Bitcoin, for S&P 500, for equity markets, that was the worst of it. Take note of that chart right there. So the data, and we're talking about decades and decades of data, was suggesting then that 2022 was the worst of it. And take note of that Bitcoin chart, $18,000 Bitcoin, January 2023. I was doing this video. And let's go look at the chart right now. So here's the zoomed out chart right now. I was doing the video in January 2023, somewhere back here. And look at it. It's been rough. The macroeconomic landscape has been brutal. It still is, even as I do this video. But I think the data, and historically, this is going to continue to prove itself. The data will prove itself that 2022 was the worst of it. And it'll be very similar to the fact that 2018 was the worst of the last bear market. And if you go all the way back here, you can just see 2014, the worst of that bear market. The consistency of Bitcoin charts, just the cycles alone, and that is to say these bull market highs in between these halvings, the consistency is unbelievable to me. And the fact that it is just so synergistic with the macroeconomic landscape and recession talk and the unknowns in the world right now. It's crazy to me to watch this play out. And we've been tracking it. And right now, there is room for downside, even on this chart. But right now, the charts reflect so nicely what I was saying back here in this video. And that is to say, 2022, the worst of it. And I think it's important to bring this up because look at what is fast approaching. Way faster than when we were kind of in January talking about that. We've come a long way on this weekly chart. A lot of volatility. Higher highs, higher lows, big swings to the downside, big swings to the upside. But the Bitcoin halving in spring of 2024 is approaching very quickly. And all of a sudden, we might see money printers come on sooner than later. We might see a shift in the Fed and interest rates. We see elections 2024 coming very quickly, November 2024. Things can shift very quickly. And Bitcoin has survived, crypto markets have survived this entire mess that we've been in. And so that's kind of where we are on the macro right now. Now, if we start talking about the zoomed in, I want to talk about it because this plays into the macro. There could be downside, and that will play right into the bullish cycles of crypto and as we approach this Bitcoin halving. So let's talk about targets. Let's talk about targets to the upside, to the downside. I real quick want to start with this post from Miles. He said, this is one of the most telling charts in crypto. Short-term BTC holder supply keeps diminishing whilst long-term holder supply is increasing. So he's saying what we're witnessing a mass transfer of wealth from the weak to the strong hands. And look at it. It's so telling. So in yellow, you have the long-term holder supply just increasing. And if you take note of the bottom of the screen, you can actually see January of 2023. these two lines almost kind of starting to cross each other. And that's actually maybe February 2023 that is taking place. So right around when I was actually doing that video, right, that's when long-term holders started really stepping into play and taking the short-term holders' bags from them. And you can see short-term holders in this bluish purple color on the downside, just lower lows as the long-term holders see higher highs. So that shift is happening. And this is just so typical of just a bear market, a winter. People start bailing. People start giving up on crypto, on Bitcoin, and it's the worst time to give up. And I could be wrong. I say it all the time. It could all go to zero, but I'm just saying, if you're going to play this game, it's not the time to give up in bear markets, in the winters. It's not the time to give up in January of 2023 when the worst of it was likely over based off of decades and decades of data. So that's that. Now let's talk about targets. Let's talk about what's going on with Bitcoin in particular. It'll give a sense of the direction of crypto potentially as a whole. Even if you don't hold Bitcoin, this is a great roadmap for your altcoins to get a sense of what's the sentiment, what the feel is on the charts. And you can just see, here's what we have going on. We've been talking a lot about, let me just set the framework here, a lot about this rising wedge that Bitcoin broke out of to the downside, consolidating sideways for a long time. It looks like months, I guess, on this chart. Downside target is the lower 20,000s. It's in play. I just want you to make note of this. That's pretty brutal, right? It could be a pretty bearish move, but just look at the zoomed out. It would be a higher low if it hits this entire Fibonacci higher low area. That's nothing. That's so common if Bitcoin were to do something like that. I just want to get that out of the way. But as we zoom in on the charts, let's talk about, number one, how it could get there. But number two, what if it doesn't, right? So here we have this consolidation that Bitcoin has been in after breaking the lower trend line, right? It's just been this sideways, kind of this sideways channel, Bitcoin bouncing around. And you have this upper trend line, the dotted line, this lower trend line right around 25,000. And truly, Bitcoin most recently has broken above this upper trend line. And what's kind of funny about it is I believe the break above was the day when the fake news kind of came out about the Bitcoin ETF. And that move has actually proven itself. It's actually still trading outside of this upper trend line, outside of this entire channel that Bitcoin has been in. Target to the upside out of that channel is right around $33,000. And it's notable just because then we will be testing this kind of lower trend line of higher lows that Bitcoin was basically in all of 2023 until falling out of that lower trend line. So that's Bitcoin's move to the upside. But what's the resistance? The immediate resistance, as you see on this daily chart, is where Bitcoin is right now. And you can see this daily wick on Bitcoin. Bitcoin was making a move kind of this morning, the last couple of hours or so. And just check it out, $30,000. And if you just zoom out on $30,000, we kind of had this resistance area around $33,000 or $30,000 back here in April. Bitcoin had trouble escaping. Even back here, this entire consolidation of Bitcoin was really having trouble escaping that $30,000 range. You go all the way back to the bear market, Bitcoin falling in May, June. What was it consolidating around? $30,000. What was Bitcoin seeing support at in the bull market? $30,000. Before Bitcoin really went on to all-time highs, where was Bitcoin consolidating to? $30,000 in January 2021. So January 2021, June 2021, July 2021, May 2022. We have April 2023. We have July 2023. $30,000 over the years has been this massive area of consolidation, of support, of resistance, of retracement. And this is where we are right now on this exact day that I do this video. So I think it's a big deal to track what happens here, because if there is resistance, Bitcoin can very likely fall back down into the channel and fall all the way back down, potentially breaking this lower trend line to its target eventually in the lower 20,000s. Want to make a note of something real quick. The lower trend line here, you can kind of just see this setup, this left shoulder, this head. And right now, if there's resistance at $30,000, we might cruise back down to the neckline. And notice this is a daily zoomed out. This could take a little bit of time over weeks. Cruise back down to the neckline, and we have a target also in the lower 20,000s. This is in play. It's something to be aware of. But I don't, for any amount of time, kind of get rid of my bullishness that I have on this chart, because it all comes back to this zoomed out chart and where we are in the cycles of crypto. Look at where Bitcoin basically essentially started moving up in the previous cycle. So this blue line, this is the last cycle. It finally started moving up. This green line, the cycle before, Bitcoin started moving up into the halving. And look, we're approaching this general time frame. There could be downside, right? Then maybe Bitcoin starts moving up, kind of in between the average of the last two cycles. But either way, Bitcoin, crypto, it's so on pace. And I just kind of wanted to do a nice little video just illustrating that as best I could while talking about some targets, because I know we have some price movement in the shorter term. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below, everybody. Hit the subscribe if you're not a subscriber. I appreciate all of you. If you're still out there, I will see you in the next video. God bless.